Absolutely. So I'm Suvojit Ghosh. I run the Computing Infrastructure Research Center at McMaster University. It's one of very few research facilities that are dedicated to data center research in the world. And one of the key aspects of what we do is that we are partnered with companies in the private sector solving real world problems. So any research that we do is always directed towards developing a new product or a new feature in a product. So far we've been around for about 3 years, and within that span we have probably put out about half a dozen products into the market for our partner companies, which I kind of brag about that a lot. So the data center of 2030 is gonna be probably looking very different from what it does right now. There's two key aspects that we have to look at in terms of where the internet is going right now. What's happening is we need more data to be transmitted and processed and stored, and we want it faster. So the two key aspects are we have to figure out how to reduce the costs of compute, so the cost of data centers themselves, and we have to figure out how to reduce latency. So we have to figure out how to put data centers or how to put compute and storage closer to the user and the source of the data. On the cost side, I think what we would see more and more on are like purpose-built or optimized hardware such as GPUs, but more of FPGAs, application-specific ICs. On the facilities side, we would see more and more of liquid cooling. We would see probably a lot of intelligent control systems for cooling that right-size the cooling in real time. So on the energy saving side, this right-sizing the liquid cooling obviously saves a lot of energy, but at the same time, it also saves a lot on capital costs. There's studies out there that show that right-sizing cooling can save you up to 30% in capital costs for the infrastructure overall. Now, let's revisit the latency aspect. This was more on the cost. The latency aspect, we know that because of how fast light is, because of speed of light, we can't really use the cloud model for powering applications that have a sub-millisecond latency tolerance, which is the promise of 5G per se. So we are going to see more and more data centers closer to the user, and what I think would happen is these data centers would take the form of micro data centers, so single rack, half rack, maybe at most 2 racks of really high density equipment that's is basically situated very close to the user and the application that's generating and using the data, so that it can have a less than basically a sub-millisecond latency access to the compute there. Density wise, anytime we are thinking about smaller footprint data centers, micro data centers at the edge, the amount of data they have to process is quite substantial. Think about a self-driving car driving through a neighborhood. Probably has 100 different sensors that are generating tons of data in real time. Think about other applications like virtual or augmented reality or even gaming. These are some of the most data intensive applications available right now. So to process this amount of data or to store this amount of data, we're looking at ultra high density. So a density that we consider ultra high density today is probably going to be the standard norm in 2030. Now I'm going to hazard a guess. It's going to be probably 100 kilowatts per rack or thereabouts, which today we consider that to be science fiction almost. But 2030, I don't think it will be science fiction anymore. Oh, I love it. This is my second time here, and it's probably the most vibrant conference in North America on data centers. The talk that I gave this morning was very well received, although it was forward-looking, futuristic in a way. And most data center conferences, I talk about things like that. People are like, oh, we only care about what's going to happen in the next year. The audience here recognize that there needs to be change in the next 5 years, next 10 years, and are prepared for that right now. That's a very unique thing about the conference here.